After a nuclear disaster destroys civilization, the world outside becomes a poisoned wasteland. Almost every place is radioactive, and breathing the open air is a death sentence. But hidden between the mountains, one valley has stayed untouched. In that rare safe zone lives Ann Burden, surviving alone on her family farm with only her dog. Her life is routine. When she needs food, tools, or medicine, she walks to the nearest abandoned town sealed in protective clothing, carrying oxygen so she does not breathe the outside air. The second she returns home, she washes completely, because one small mistake could bring contamination back with her. Most days are quiet. Ann feeds the animals, checks fences, sets traps, and keeps the farm running. Her dog hunts with her and sleeps beside her at night like a substitute for the family she lost. Then, one day, something changes. Near the road, Ann spots a wagon that was not there before. Her dog reacts, warning her someone else is close. She hides, and a man in a protective suit appears and moves on. After so much isolation, another human being feels unreal, so Ann follows at a distance. The stranger checks the area with a radiation detector. When it shows the valley is clean, he can barely believe it. He tears off his helmet, breathes in, and reacts like a man who has stumbled into paradise. Ann watches from cover, unsure whether this will become a blessing or a disaster. She later finds him at a waterfall and reveals herself to warn him, but a stranger suddenly appearing with a gun looks like a threat. He points his weapon, fires a warning shot, and demands answers. Ann raises her hand and tells him the important part first. The water he is standing in is not safe. The man, John, tests it anyway. The results hit him immediately. He realizes he has exposed himself to radiation, turns violently sick, and begs Ann to inject him with a medical syringe. He is desperate and unstable, so Ann hesitates until John throws his gun aside and promises not to hurt her. Ann injects him, gets him away from the contaminated area, and brings him back to the farm. John explains he will need another dose every day if he wants any chance of surviving. He also tells her to burn his clothes, and if he dies, to burn his body too. Back at the house, Ann scrubs him down with safe water and helps him into bed. The next day she goes to his wagon for supplies and finds a photograph of him with a woman. What follows is a long recovery. Day after day, Ann nurses him with food and medicine, listening to him shiver at night and praying he will make it through. She goes to the chapel, plays the organ, and asks for help. Eventually the fever eases, his strength returns, and he can walk again with Ann's support. Ann tells him about her family. Her father believed the valley would remain safe, so they stayed while the world collapsed. Later, the rest of her family left the farm to search for survivors and never returned. John, a man of science, cannot stand not knowing why this one place escaped contamination, but Ann has no answer, so she pulls him into a hug. John starts fixing what he can. When Ann explains the tractor became useless without electricity to run the fuel pumps, John shows her a manual way to get gas. It works, and the farm runs better. At dinner, John prays, then shares his past. He survived as a researcher in a government bunker, but it began to feel like a prison, so he left even though the outside world was still dangerous. When Ann asks about the woman in the photograph, John says she was not his wife. The distance between them keeps shrinking. One night, Ann leaves her bedroom door open. John notices her interest and still goes to his own room. Later, Ann fishes at the pond and swims. John watches, and they share quiet tension. She explains the pond and the farm's well connect to the same underground water source, one reason the valley may have survived. She also admits winter is harder now that the generator is gone. John checks the generator and confirms it is finished. Ann blames herself for plugging in a DVD player, but John says it was ancient and bound to fail. John studies the waterfall, realizing it could drive a water wheel strong enough to create power. But he needs wood, lots of it, and his solution is simple. Tear down the chapel and use its timber. For Ann, that crosses a line. Her father built the chapel, and it represents faith, family, and the belief the valley was protected for a reason. John argues saving their future matters more than preserving the past. Ann refuses. That night the dog barks at the door as if it senses something outside. By morning they are back to work. Ann handles the farm. John works on equipment, then heads to a roadside store for anything useful. When Ann finds him there, the mood shifts. John is drunk, stumbling and throwing boxes, half angry and half broken, talking about how he figured out her favorite things by studying which supplies she used and which ones she left untouched. It is messy, uncomfortable, and revealing. Underneath his calm exterior, he is still carrying fear, loneliness, and damage that never really healed. John's anger breaks through one night when Ann helps him into bed. Ashamed of how weak he is, he explodes, shoves her back, and snaps that he does not need to be treated like he is helpless. Anne recoils, frightened, and locks herself in her room. The next day, the house feels colder. John apologizes, but the damage is done. Anne sees the buried rage under his calm exterior. Anne keeps her distance, listening to him move around the house, wondering how quickly safety can turn, even inside a clean valley. Soon after, Anne goes to the chapel and plays the organ for peace. While she plays, she feels someone watching. When she checks outside, no one is there. She assumes it was John, but he denies going near the chapel. That changes everything. Someone else may be out there. That evening, Anne and John share a rare calm dinner. Open wine, dance, laugh, and kiss. For a moment, it feels like the loneliness might disappear. Then John pulls away, thanks her, and retreats. Later, he comes back to check on her, and Anne hopes he changed his mind. She makes herself vulnerable, but John gently stops her and asks her to get dressed. It hurts. John says it is not about desire. He is attracted to her, but taking that step now would change the balance too fast. Once that door opens, nothing stays simple. The next morning, Anne offers the chapel for the water wheel. Now John refuses, knowing what it means to her and not wanting to be the one who takes something sacred. Then, checking traps with her dog, Anne finds a stranger. He introduces himself as Caleb, insists he means no harm, and asks only for water and mercy. Anne brings him to the farm. John reacts like a survivor, weapon up, assuming the worst, until Anne stops him. John scans Caleb with the radiation detector and questions him. Caleb admits he stole eggs earlier because he did not know what kind of people lived here and out there. Asking politely can get you killed. Caleb says he survived because he worked underground in a mine. Being below the surface saved him. Since then, he has drifted south, hoping for somewhere better. He wants to leave by morning, but the detector shows he has taken in radiation. He is sick and weakening, so John agrees to let him recover a few days. At first, Caleb stays outside, but Anne refuses to treat him like an animal and convinces John to let him sleep inside. At lunch, Caleb joins Anne in prayer, and that small detail matters. Caleb talks about the road and the strange luck that kept him alive. John shares a darker memory. A sick teenage boy robbed his wagon, already dying from contamination, and begged John to finish the job. John says he could not do it and left the boy behind. Caleb's story is grim too. Fear turned the men in the mine against each other. Violence followed, and the place became chaos. Anne responds with sympathy, and John notices, bothered that Caleb receives easy softness he never did. When Anne welcomes Caleb and seems comfortable around him, John confronts her. Anne snaps back, reminding him what solitude did to her and how starved she is for simple human presence. That pushes John into confessing what he avoided. He believes the dying boy may have been Anne's brother, and he ended his suffering. The confession crushes Anne and reopens the wound of her missing family. Still, through tears, she tells John she understands. Caleb settles into the farm's rhythm. He and John hunt together and talk about radio rumors of a survivor settlement in the south. Caleb wants to believe it. John thinks it is false hope. Caleb leans toward faith and possibility. John toward proof. The triangle sharpens in small moments. When they spot a wild turkey, Caleb jokes that whoever gets it first wins Anne. John stiffens because it names what everyone feels. Both men are becoming attached to her. The water wheel remains unfinished. Materials are limited and every other option dies until they reach the same conclusion. If they want the wheel, the chapel has to go. This time Anne agrees. Not because she stopped caring, but because survival is demanding sacrifices. So the three of them tear it down together. For Anne, it is heartbreaking. For John, it is necessity. For Caleb, it is a chance to stand beside her while she grieves. As they build the wheel, stripping wires, hauling timber, shaping a mechanism that could bring power back, Caleb and Anne grow closer, and John cannot ignore it. Shared looks turn into open chemistry, and because John kept holding back, he watches someone else step into the space he left open. Anne visits the chapel's remains mourning. Caleb follows and comforts her with belief, not logic. He talks about faith and tells her he believes the valley was protected for a reason. That idea lands deeply. Anne has clung to the belief there is meaning in why this place survived. John never shared it. Caleb does, and that spiritual connection gives him an advantage. When they return, John sees the shift. That night he tells Anne maybe Caleb is the better choice. He tries to frame it as acceptance, but it feels like surrender. Anne hears rejection. John stepping back again when she needs clarity. After that, the farm becomes an emotional maze. The wheel moves toward completion, but Anne is caught between John, the guarded realist who came first, and Caleb, warmer and easier to reach. When Caleb risks himself by wearing the suit and entering contaminated water so the wheel can advance, his value rises even more. Brave, useful, present. That night they celebrate by the pond with drinks, music, and silly games. On the surface, it is joyful. Underneath, John feels the change completely as Anne and Caleb drift toward each other, share glances, pair off naturally, almost forgetting he is there. For the first time since arriving, John no longer feels closest to Anne. He feels like the outsider. On the way back to the farm, John drunkenly tells Anne he loves her. Anne does not answer. That night she slips into bed beside him, hoping he will finally stop holding back, but he passes out. That is Anne's breaking point. Hurt and exhausted by John always stepping back, she gives in to what has been growing with Caleb, and they spend the night together. By morning, the house is painfully awkward. Caleb even touches Anne at breakfast like nothing changed, and she walks out. John and Caleb still head out to finish the final stage of the water wheel. On the way they talk carefully, but the truth is sitting between them. John tries to sound calm about Caleb's arrival. Caleb hears the jealousy and calls him out. John does not argue. They finish the wheel, but as Caleb climbs back up in the protective suit, he slips on the wet rocks. John saves him once with the rope. Caleb slips again, and the two men lock eyes. Caleb realizes John is not just deciding if he can save him, but if he wants to. The film cuts away before showing what John chooses. Later, John returns to the farm alone. Anne admits what happened with Caleb was a mistake made in a confused moment. John says Caleb already left, heading south for other survivors. Anne does not believe him and runs out to look, but finds nothing. After that, silence settles in. John finishes the connections, and the farmhouse finally has electricity again. The lights come back on, the generator works, and the future looks secure. But emotionally, the damage is done. Anne finds John moved the chapel organ and some pews into the barn. She plays, while John listens and prays in silence. The film ends without confirming Caleb's fate, leaving Anne with sadness, doubt, suspicion, and grief. Power is back, but trust and peace are not. It suggests John chose control, and Anne is left not knowing what he did.